This is Kim from Dorothy's Daughter. Welcome to Friday Sewing School. This is lesson number 1.2. We're going to go over sewing machine basics. So the first thing we're going to talk about is what sewing machine should you purchase. If you don't have one yet, what are some things to look for if you're buying a used machine, features that are must-haves and features that are nice. So I'm going to go ahead and go over that. But first, I'm going to show you the basic parts of a sewing machine. So I'm going to show you on my Janome Magnolia 7330 the basic parts of the sewing machine. You have your spool where you put your thread. This is for an extra spool of thread should you be using a twin needle. This is the area where you wind the bobbin, and to engage the bobbin you just push that over. Then the thread goes around here, down here, up through this take-up lever, down through a couple of little places down here, and then through the foot. Down here, this is your bobbin. This is a top-loading bobbin. So the bobbin just simply drops in there, goes around, and then you just pull it up with the top thread. So the bobbin is here. The bobbin is the under thread that comes up and catches the top thread. So as your sewing machine goes along, each stitch has a movement of the bobbin and a movement of the top. The feed dogs are these little things right down here that move the fabric along. You have seam allowance gauges all along here that help you be accurate in your sewing. On this particular model, you have a speed here. You have needle up and needle down, which is really nice to have. You have, this is like a tie off where you hit that and it just goes up and down and locks the thread. You have a reverse, which is also something that's real important. And you have a start and stop button in case you don't want to use your foot pedal or aren't able to. The presser foot is, on this one, happens to be low shank and just pops off, snaps off, and snaps on. So I will show you later on some different feet and what they're used for. This one, every sewing machine will come at least with one of these all-purpose feet, and that's what this is. I like this one because you can see through it and it helps you to know exactly where you're sewing. So there is always some place on the machine to drop the feed dogs. On this one, it is back here, and that drops the feed dogs and allows you to stay in one place or free form sew. So that just gets those little movers out of the way. I told you about the speed. Every machine has different stitches built in. This one has, I guess, 30 built in. The most important ones, though, are straight stitch and zigzag. You want to be able to, if you have a straight stitch and a zigzag, you can sew anything. But some of the ones that are nice, it is nice to have the ones where the needle can move to different positions, because once in a while, if you want to sew really close to an edge, it's nice to be able to move the needle so that you can get more of the fabric under the feed dogs. There are stitches, triple stitches, there's the different zigzags, overcast, blind hems, buttonholes, different decorative stitches down here. So a lot of things I never use. What I do use is straight stitch, zigzag. I move the needle position, And once in a while I use blind hem and the buttonholes. So there you have it. You don't necessarily need a lot of the other things, but they are nice to have in case you do. This one is a nice sturdy machine. It was very reasonable. I have another Janome that's an older model, and it's amazing. It was called a Combi DX, which had a serger built into the back of it. It's an amazing machine. It's not computerized at all, so it doesn't have any of these stitches. It basically just has variations of straight and zigzag. It was my main machine for a really long time, and was way more expensive than this one, but I like the fact that this one has the needle down and needle up, and it'll stop in whatever. If you start with the needle down, it'll stop that way. So you can, you'll see why later, why that's really handy. So yeah, that's the basic parts. This wheel over here, it manually cranks the needle up and down when you need to do that. So those are the parts. Now for the things that make a machine good. Okay, one is the sturdiness of it. There's a few good brands out there. I prefer Janome because I've used them for years. They're good. Brother is good. Baby Lock is good. I don't know much about Singer anymore because I haven't used one for a really long time, but back in the 70s, I can tell you they were not good. So it just depends on, you'd have to read some reviews. I'm going to link some machines that I think are good buys down below. You can spend anything from like a little over, you can spend like a little under $200 to all the way up to $5,000. So the basic things that you need, like I said, are straight and zigzag. But some of the features that are nice to have would be this needle up and down with a button position. That comes in really, really handy. And like I said, as you start sewing, you'll see why. You definitely need to have the reverse, which I don't imagine there's any machine that doesn't have that for locking purposes. Good lighting is important. This one is fair. It's fine for me, but I've seen ones that had better lighting. Some of the more expensive machines have better lighting. You definitely want to have a speed adjustment if you can get one. Some of the really, really inexpensive machines don't, but I think all of the kind of 300 and up do have that, and that's real important. The other thing you want to make sure is straight, zigzag, and the other thing is buttonholes. You don't want to have to be taking them somewhere to have buttonholes done every time. It doesn't have to be an automatic buttonholer like this one, which is one of the features I love about this machine. It has a buttonhole foot, which I can show you. That you actually place the button in, and it makes the correct size of buttonhole when you choose one of these. So it's really nice, nice to have. So that's basically the things to consider would be straight stitch, zigzag, buttonholes, needle up and down position, good lighting, and a good brand. So those are the things. Now, if you're going to buy a used machine, some questions to ask. When was the last time it was used? Who used it? What was it used for? How often was it cleaned? And of course the model. Make sure online that you can find a manual to it. Your sewing machine manual should be kept near your sewing stuff at all times because you will refer to it. So I will put some basic models down below that that I think are worthy to consider when you're first starting out. This one had 5-star reviews everywhere you look, and I wanted one that was a little more automatic than my older one, so I bought this. It was under $400, and honestly, it's a really good machine. So definitely takes me everywhere I need to go. I do have a dream machine, which I'll link below too, because nobody's gonna run out and buy one, I don't think, right now. But it's my dream is the Janome Memory Craft 9450, which is an amazing sewing machine. It has automated tension, automatic pressure foot tension, has buttons that actually cut the threads for you. It's really nice. Another thing you have another part to mention on a sewing machine is usually you have a little cutter right here that cuts your threads as you're sewing when you're at the end of your seam. So that's basically the parts of a sewing machine. So let's start sewing. Down below, you have some papers that you can download to practice going in straight lines and that kind of thing. So when you first start sewing, you raise this presser foot up. You put the fabric or whatever you're sewing on underneath the presser foot, lower the presser foot, and then you're going to either push this button to lower your needle, or if your machine does not have that, you're going to just crank it down into the fabric as far as it will go. And then you're just going to hold it like this, and you're going to engage your foot pedal. So what you can do is go to the corner and stop. You want to make sure your needle's down in the fabric. I use the button, but if you don't have a button, you'll have to crank it all the way down in. Lift up that presser foot again. And turn. And continue on. Lift up again. Turn. Lift up. Make sure the needle's down every single time. This is needle up. This is needle down. Pivot. And down. Now you can print these papers as many times as you need to and practice turning corners. Needle in, presser foot up, pivot the fabric, and down. Needle down, up, pivot, down. Now when you start and stop sewing, you need to lock your stitches. So when you start, what you want to do is you want to go a couple, I'm going to put this really slow so it'll, I can show you. When you start sewing at the beginning, you're going to go a couple stitches, hit this backwards button, go backwards a couple to lock it, and then go on. Needle down, presser foot up, pivot. Okay, let's say we're ending our stitches now. I'm just going to run off the squares here. Okay, let's say we're at the end of what we're going to sew. Then what you want to do is you want to just backstitch again. And there you go. Then you're going to raise up the needle, lift up the presser foot, and pull out your project, which is at this point going to rip paper. But and you can print that and do that as many times and it will rip, yeah, but it's a good way to practice turning corners. And the links will be down in the description. So then I also have one for you to practice curves. So again, we're going to line up. We're going to put the needle down in the fabric, lower the presser foot. We're going to begin by taking a couple stitches, reverse a couple stitches, and then go. And as you sew, you'll get the feel for it, but you just kind of, with curves, you just have to guide it around. It's helpful to use this, I don't know if you can see this arrow right here. It's helpful to use that arrow and knowing that that's where the needle position is when it's in the center. So that's where your stitch is going to go. So in this case, with a line, you can just keep that line right under that arrow. And turn. Keep going. And as they get tighter, just have to pivot a little faster, turn it a little faster. And then when you're at the end, you're just going to back stitch again to lock your stitches. Lift up your needle, lift up the presser foot, and pull your project out. And then as I said, most sewing machines have a cutter here. So there you go. I'm just going to demonstrate a zigzag. Again, you're going to select zigzag, which in this case is number 8. You're going to put your needle down, presser foot down, and then just zigzag. Which it's going to completely rip this paper, but again, you can either back stitch, or in this case with a zigzag, what you might want to do is use, if your machine has a locking thread function, you can do that. It just goes up and down. I'll do 3 or 4 times. Needle up, presser foot up, and pull out your project. Okay. So today we have covered basic supplies needed in the other video, and the parts of the sewing machine, and beginning to take stitches. So the first 2 on your checklist you can check off. As you practice, there's a few more underneath as you master turning corners, sewing a straight line, sewing a curved line. Next week we will be talking about needles and thread and which ones to choose for which fabrics. And then soon after that, we will be starting to sew the Cadence Dress by Love Notions Patterns. So have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I will see you all on Tuesday with some inspiration and chit chat and show some makes that I'm doing. I'm going to talk about Me Made May a little bit. And then again on Friday for sewing school. So I hope you enjoy it. I know it's very basic, so I apologize if it's things you already know, but I have to assume that some people may not know anything. So I wanted it to be as basic could be. We will move on from here. And once we get into the sew-alongs, I'm sure everyone can learn something. So have a wonderful, wonderful weekend and happy sewing.